the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, and south of the 52nd state. Kevin Curse is here.
Yep.
Looking dapper as always, but you may notice there's somebody who's usually here pregame who's not, but oh, wait a second. Vodka! That's Anthony SanFilippo's music. Look at him. He is live on assignment. He is not in the building, but he is wearing a dapper tux. He's got himself muted. I feel like we're going back to the early COVID days, the way that he's taking a gallivanting around some unknown location. He's frozen again. Welcome. We'll see when he's ready. I'm going to take him, I guess I'll take him down until we can figure out what he's doing. We can't just have a simple pregame show, Kevin. Like, why on earth? I have to take him down. So sad. Well, actually, we'll keep this audio.
That's the smartest he's sounded in months.
You know what? I'm glad that you're the one that said it, and it didn't have to be me. Intern Andrew looks thrilled with this technological advance.
For whatever reason, your mic sounds a little weird. Kevin's coming in.
My mic sounds weird?
You're a little soft. I don't know why.
There are so many things I can say to that, but I'm not going to. Okay.
Just say.
Kevin.
Yes.
While we
Russ.
try to figure out Anthony SanFilippo, the bane of my existence. Flyers come into this game against the Devils. That was a game that they won in New Jersey, but the last two games against New York, maybe we should have had Jackie Spiegel over here as well, because as we all know, she's from, what borough is she from? Queens, the Bronx, they're all the same anyway.
Pretty much.
Flyers go on the road. They lose 2 games in New York. Sam Ersson gets blown up in one of those games. He's back in net tonight. Scott Lawton in the lineup. Sean Couturier out. Your thoughts, at least initially here, of some changes to the lineup. There was apparently some illness,
Sean
potentially
Couturier
going
is
away
sick, so
around
he's out. Scott Lawton's back in after missing the last 3 games. Those New York games, the Rangers are on a roll right now, right? And I thought in the first period especially, the Flyers are really on their heels. The Rangers look like the better team, which they probably are at this point, right? At the same time, some of those Rangers goals were pretty much perfect deflections that I don't think Sam could have done much about, right?
Yeah.
There was 3 of them were just deflections in the high slot. You'd probably like to see the Flyers be a little bit harder in that area of the ice, but they got outplayed and they lost. It's not really that surprising, just considering how well the Rangers have been going lately. Then the Islanders game, I think the Flyers are a better team than the Islanders at this point.
Yeah.
I think the biggest factor in that game was the Flyers were on a back-to-back, 4th game in 6 nights. The Islanders hadn't played since Monday. And, for the most part, the Flyers kept their defensive structure. Fedotov lets in a bad goal. New York capitalizes on its odd man rushes. The Flyers had some chances they didn't capitalize on, but that game was probably the one that they look back and they say to themselves, we could have been a little bit better. But this condensed schedule is a grind, and I talked to Torts about it this morning and Scott Lawton about it this morning, and it's obviously not an excuse. No one's ever going to use it as an excuse, but it just feels like a lot of the parity to me right now is because there's a lot of bad hockey games right now because teams are tired. And I think that was the case for the Flyers on Friday. We'll see how they play. I'm not saying I think they're a playoff team or they're better than the Rangers or they're better than the Devils. I don't think they are better than the Rangers or the Devils, but I do think that they need to have there has to be some sort of sympathy for them for having to play that second of a back-to-back against the Islanders.
Now, I mentioned Ersson, you mentioned Fedotov, and I'm sure in a move that some people might have brought some joy to your heart, a guy who you and we and quite frankly thought probably belonged back in the AHL was sent down. Alexei Kolosov not with the team. Were you surprised that it took that long for the move?
Yeah.
Are you surprised that he did end up going down, that they didn't continue to carry 3?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you saw the move?
Well, I don't get happy or sad.
No,
it is what
I'm
it is.
I'm not saying that you do.
I'm happy when I'm right,
Yeah.
and I was right about this one because I wrote after I think it was a Vegas game, right? He just the back-to-back games in LA Vegas. He didn't look like an NHL goalie.
Yeah.
And he's not an NHL goalie, and he's not in the NHL anymore. So I think it's the right move. I believe he's given up 5 goals in each of his first 2 games with the Phantoms, right? I know he did at least the first game. Which
I live a very simplistic life.
Yeah.
That you don't. When they're not up here, I don't care.
Yeah,
I tend not to pay attention unless unless we get some kind of word that a call-up is on the way, get a little bit educated. But to me, he's like out of sight, out of mind.
I don't watch the Phantoms because I think my time's better spent watching other NHL games when I have free time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm usually doing. But, there's other people that can report on this stuff in terms of watching the Phantoms over and over again. But if you give up 10 goals in 2 games, it's probably not ideal.
Far from ideal.
Yeah, and it suggests that he's where he should be. I'm not surprised. I always wonder where the Flyers may be trying to turn him into a tradable asset, right? That was sort of my conspiracy theory, right? Is they keep him around, they keep him on the roster, they get him some games. Maybe there's a team out there that says, here's a young athletic goalie. Maybe we'll give the Flyers a 5th-round pick for him or something.
Yeah.
And now we'll see how he does, but I think he's kind of an afterthought. You got Bjarnason, you got Zavragin, both playing well. Bjarnason will be here next year with the Phantoms. If Kolosov wants to come back and play for the Phantoms next season, they should let him. If he pulls this stuff again, see you later.
The thing that I always keep coming back to, and I think we might have, we had Ant, and now it looks like he's gone again. We did have him for a
He just
second.
came back in again.
The video looked good. Why don't you communicate with him through the private chat function? We'll see if we can get back. The thing, I don't disagree with you, but I kind of had it as the inverse.
Okay.
I thought all along the idea would be send Kolosov down, get some good film for Fedotov, and if you as an organization were worried, and it seems like they were, that if they put Fedotov on waivers, a team would take him because that frame, you can't teach the frame that he has.
Yeah.
Perhaps you give him some time, some experience, maybe he surprises you. I always kind of viewed it as Fedotov was the guy you want to get the good film, and if you were able to trade him at the deadline, if that's what you ultimately wanted to do, or maybe at the draft offseason, you would move him and you say Kolosov age-wise maybe fits the timeline a little bit better, gets some valuable experience in the A. It's always been a very interesting saga.
Yeah.
But at least for now, it appears to be done.
And Fedotov,
He wants to come back in now.
he's making, what is he, 3.25 or so for the next 2 years.
Something like that.
I certainly don't think he would have gotten claimed if he was waived in November or December. He's got to play. You've got to see what you have in this guy. And he's 28 years old. He shouldn't really need the AHL. He probably could have used some games there early on, but he's certainly in a better position than Kolosov to adapt to the NHL game just because he has more experience. So, I'm sure he's going to play probably on Thursday against the Islanders. And with the way the schedule is, he's going to have to play more coming out of the break, too.
Yeah, February is a light month. We know that because of the Four Nations, but March is a killer. There's it's a 2-week stretch. It's like 7 games in 12 days or something.
It's a lot there are a lot of home games, which helps, right? The energy levels.
Yeah.
But, you got to see what you have in Fedotov. It's the right 2 goalies are here. I know he gave up a bad goal last game out, but he's at least been trending the right way. And he's just going to make saves just because he's a giant, right? He doesn't have to be super athletic. He's always going to look awkward, but
people have kind of compared him to the, I think it was Geico, where there was the walrus.
The walrus,
right?
Ridiculous.
With the little helmet. In fairness, he's not plump, but he does take a lot of the net. Now, speaking of guys who can man the net, Anthony SanFilippo appears to be back, looking dapper. Let's see if he can perform under pressure. Anthony, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you let the people know where are you?
I've been listening to this fantastic conversation between the 2 of you for the last 10 minutes. Waiting patiently in the green room for my opportunity to speak. How are you, boys?
It's a beautiful night. You're a little bit quiet, but it's a beautiful night.
And
what are your thoughts on? We were just talking about Alexei Kolosov and about Fedotov and about what took so long and all that. How do you feel? Is there a chance here that Kolosov, in your mind, is going to find his way back up to this level, or do you think that this is now he's down there, they're going to try to get Fedotov some starts here, but Kolosov probably spends much of the season down there.
Yeah, I think he's down there at least until after the Four Nations. There's going to be an interesting situation once that is over. I don't know. It really kind of depends on what Fedotov does, right, in the games that he plays. I think that's the most intriguing thing to me And Kev, you were at the presser this morning with Torts, and the lines that he says that I think are the most telling is when he says something like, in that game, I think it was the Islanders game he was referring to,
Yep.
we needed one more save.
Yep.
Right? And you also said we needed one more goal, which was, a damnation of the offense in that game, but because it was just such a bad game. But you constantly hear him say, if we could just have one more save. I think that's them saying that they're just not thrilled overall, and how can you be with how the goaltending has played this season? And so, I think they're going to give Fedotov a chance here to play some games. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I'm not convinced that he's the backup long-term for the remainder of the season. I do think there's a possibility we can get to a point where Kolosov can come back and be backup.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's any assurances that Fedotov's going to be the backup next season. He's going to have to make the most of his starts here moving forward, right? I mean, as they keep saying, they're still evaluating Sam Ersson, and can he be a number one? And right. He's sort of answered the bell a little bit lately, to his credit. But as Russ was saying before, the schedule's going to get pretty busy here in March, and you're going to need your backup. But you got to learn what he is, right? He needs to start at least 5, 6, 7 more games here moving forward, just so you get a bigger book on him.
I agree. I agree. No, I was going to say, I'm just curious to see when they make the decision. When they address where they are with their goaltending. And who knows, maybe an injury clears this up, or maybe somebody's great play or bad play.
I think we lost him mid-thought, but that's okay. We'll bring him back. Kevin, I actually do want to follow up with you because Sam Ersson, we've gotten to see take on the number one goalie load, right? And then last year, when you think back to him splitting time with Carter Hart, right? We saw him late in that season have to take on the number one responsibilities. Yeah. It feels like this year, 3 lower body injuries. There are legitimate durability questions, I think, that are going to surround this guy. It was the groin, by the way, yeah. And so you have a fear there. And then if we're being fair, 4 Nations is going to create that break, and a lot of guys, especially those who are harboring injuries that are nagging and come back, sometimes being off the ice and out of game action is actually worse. You stiffen up more. That's
a good point.
Given the density of games in March, it does stand to reason that, unfortunately, an injury is still very much in play. And maybe it does, once again, put you in a situation where you have Fedotov and Kolosov alternating starts again. I don't know, is that the worst thing in the world in the midst of a rebuild? I'm not sure. How much do you think, if he were to come back and get hurt again, how much do you think that impacts their long-term view of whether or not Ersson can be the guy? Or do they say, this is more of an anomaly, this shouldn't happen again? Where do you think they land?
In terms of Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a recurring injury, you certainly are concerned about that. But I don't think he'd be playing right now and playing all these games if they were worried it would reoccur again. I mean, especially the nature of groin injuries, you never know when it might crop up. In terms of if he does get hurt again and you're stuck with Fedotov and Kolosov in the second half or in March, April, that's not as much of a worry late in the season if you fall out of the playoff race than it would have been, I think, in December, where you did have the worry about Ersson. Now, he did come back and he's played a lot. But if you had to roll with Fedotov and Kolosov for a couple months in December, January, this time of year, that puts everything at risk to me, because you're asking these guys to play towards the style, which is they got to work their bags off to get one goal, right? Yeah. We know that. We know how hard they have to play. When you're playing like that and you're getting 1 or 2 goals, and then your goalie's letting in 2 or 3 that are just routine,
boneheaded,
which is what was happening on that road trip. And before the road trip, when Sam wasn't playing very well either, you risk everything. You risk throwing off the dressing room. You risk guys starting to point fingers at each other. You risk the development of younger guys when they're afraid to make a mistake because they know it's going to end up in the back of the net. So you can't tell, this crowd that says, well, we want the bad goalies because we're going to get a higher draft pick. I disagree with that completely because, when you have bad goaltending, it can really seep into different parts of your game, your mental well-being, your just everything. That's not and Danny and Jonesy have both said that's not something they're interested in, and they're not lying when they say that.
I mean, I'm very much in the get the high draft pick because right now you're cap strapped to hell, right? There are very few ways to get elite talent. One of them happens to be a trade. I saw people getting upset about the Mikko Rantanen trade. Why aren't the Flyers involved going after Rantanen?
That's just stupid.
Listen, I will bang the drum, and I will get about as angry as anybody. But that's never happening.
Well, you look at the trade.
It makes no sense.
Who do they want to trade to Colorado for Mikko Rantanen that's on the level of a Martin Necas?
There's nothing. There's nothing that even is remotely comparable.
No, there's a team that's trying to win now that needs to plug in a piece that can play and contribute right away.
Yeah.
The Flyers don't have that guy.
While I'm very much in the camp of get the higher pick, actually try to go out and get star talent because there are very few teams in this league. I asked Twitter the other day. I said, give me 3 examples in the last 25 years where a team has had one elite potential guy, which I would say is Mishkov, has picked in hockey purgatory for a bunch of years, and has gone on to win a cup. One of the loudest people said Colorado. Colorado's that team. I said it's a terrible example because Colorado picked 5 times in the top 10 over an 8-year period. They picked 3 times in the top 5. Terrible comp. But some people like to go back to that. And then the question is, do you have the appetite? Do you have the stomach to be that bad for a long period? I don't know. I guess I'd posit, was the wait worth it for Colorado? Did all those fans that had to wait for Nathan McKinnon, that had to wait for a Rantanen, that had to wait for a McCarr, did they feel like it was ultimately worth it? I think that if you win the Stanley Cup in your lifetime,
for sure,
you probably feel like, it might be worth it.
Yeah.
Do you think this fan base has the stomach for it?
Well, I only came back a year ago, so I know, I probably don't have as much of an appreciation for the fact this team hasn't been very good for about 10 years now, right? Other than some fleeting moments of competence. But there is different ways to build a team. Now, we'll see. I don't know if this is going to work, right? And hell, Flyers might end up with the 10th worst record in the league and end up with the 3rd overall pick in the draft, right? I mean,
Lottery
these things are possible, So, I understand we want to lose games for a higher draft pick, and hell, there's some merit in that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, you're able to find very good players late in the first round, and I think they have a lot of faith in Brent Flair with what he's done in the past, not just in Philadelphia, but also in Minnesota. So it puts more pressure on your scouting staff to go out and find those guys, but that's why you put more bullets in the chamber in terms of 3 first-round draft picks, 3 second-round draft picks, maybe another first if you end up trading Risto.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was going to be the next place we were going to go.
Yeah.
A year ago, I think the conversation around Risto was, hey, he's playing good hockey, especially at spurts last year. It was like, Risto actually looks like a competent defenseman for a change, right? In fairness, there were some bad years in Buffalo, and when he first got here, he didn't blow the doors off anyone. But what he played at last year was all right, do you try to sell high on him? But probably last year, you're eating a part of that contract. Maybe you're attaching a pick just to move off that deal.
Yeah.
For better or worse, them being patient, because there were teams interested last year, them being patient has maybe paid off. I don't think you'd have to attach a pick to him. I don't think you're really looking at a scenario where you have to eat the salary. The question is whatever you're going to get back in a trade, is that draft capital, whether it's this year, next year, late first round, is that pick, if you're making it, worth it? Is that pick, if it's being added with something else to make a move for a bigger impact player, is it worth it? Where do you land? Do you think that he fits their timeline? Do you think based on the signals that you're seeing, it makes more sense to keep him? Where do you land right now?
His age and his salary does not fit the timeline. I would look to move him. I'd be content, if you're the Flyers, I think you're fine maybe eating salary for this, this year or whatever, maybe even part of next year. By that 3rd year, that shouldn't even be a question. The full salary has to come off the books, especially with the cap going up. The one concern I would have trading him is that it makes your blue line pretty small, and it's already a small team. Do you want Cam York, Jamie Drysdale, and Emil Andre all in the lineup at the same time? Now, I asked Torts that a couple months ago, and he said the size didn't worry him at all, but he wouldn't expand on it, which to me says, well, maybe he is worried about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. because he is a big guy, but that's why he's going to be sought after by some teams at the trade deadline. So I do expect him to get moved. I expect it to be after the Four Nations. This is based on stuff that I've heard. But Danny, I don't think was lying either when he said the other day at the press conference, we're not going to feel pressure to move him because sometimes those deals are easier to make in the summer, right? And if they do happen to win another 3 or 4 in a row, they might want to keep him around because if they get back in the playoff picture, I think I do think
myself in the head.
Yeah.
Every time that comes up.
Make the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in year 2 of a rebuild. You set the expectations. Like you said. Well, they haven't really explicitly said, and people have started to point this out more and more. They're not using the rebuild word. They're not really using the retool word. They're kind of implying we know that we need better talent.
Yeah.
If we're going to try to compete for a cup.
Yep.
Maybe people are jumping to conclusions one way or the other. Do you think it's the right call? If they get to within 5 points of a potential bubble playoff spot, just knowing what they are, knowing what's coming down the pike, knowing what the month of March is going to look like, and the end of the season, a lot of good teams that they're going to run into. Some would argue it's a buzzsaw. If they're within like 5 points around the trade deadline, are you looking to add, or do you just say, you know what, maybe we don't add, but we're not going to sell off. We're going to give the guys the chance to.
They're not going to add.
It.
They're definitely not going to add. There's no doubt about that. But they could be more reluctant to sell off a guy like Ristolainen or, Ryan Poehling is a guy that could have some interest to some teams, right? A center with some speed that can kill penalties. Does Noah Cates' development make someone like him expendable? Potentially. Especially if you want to keep a Scott Lawton around.
I think he makes a Lawton expendable, but I get your point.
Yeah, he might. Yeah. So I don't expect them to add at all. I think they've been very clear that they're not going to do that. But it could make them more reluctant to sell. And now if some team comes in and offers a first-round pick and a pretty good prospect for Ristolainen, I don't think where they sit in the standings is going to matter. They're going to do the same thing they did last year when they moved Sean Walker. They got the asking price, they got the first-round pick. And they moved them, and it kind of screwed up a lot of what they were trying to do, especially in terms of moving the puck out of their own zone. So I don't think they're in any sort of different spot this year than they were last year.
I guess part of the question kind of comes back to what you were saying about the goalies earlier, that it's kind of hard to evaluate the players in front of the goalies if they're kind of getting mentally out of it maybe a little bit. They're getting a little bit defeated that the goalies are giving up boneheaded goals night in and night out. If an Ersson goes down and you are left with the Fedotov-Kolosov rotation and you already have that kind of maybe muddying the waters of your evaluation of these players, are you then not as apt to make a move? Because if you do deal Aristo, not only are you getting smaller, that is one of your more reliable, certainly better playing guys on the blue line. Does that change the calculus at all, or do you just say, well, screw it, it's already muddied enough,
I don't know.
It can't get any worse?
If you're stuck with those two goalies for the rest for any extended amount of time, I mean, you might get that top pick.
Yeah.
But again, like I said before, if Ersson gets hurt in late March, I mean, whatever, you just roll with it and you see where you land in the draft lottery. But Sam's healthy now; he's playing well. It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the off season with their goaltending, right? Goaltending around here, it's always a topic of discussion. So.
I wanted to get to something that you lit Flyers Twitter on fire with the other day.
The JT Miller thing?
Yeah, that one. Now, in fairness, you did try to kind of tamp the brakes a little bit. You kind of said to the people, hey, this doesn't mean it's anything. This doesn't mean that it's imminent.
Right.
Just spitballing.
And it's nothing I heard. I'm just...
Yeah, you were just spitballing about
Listen,
JT
the Flyers
Miller
have talked about wanting a center for how long. Here's a team in Vancouver that has 2 of them available potentially. Pettersson, the rumblings are I don't think they'd be interested in him, but... that doesn't mean they are interested in JT Miller, to be clear. But, you look at Morgan Frost is a guy that's been in the spotlight for a long time here, right?
Yeah.
Had a decent stretch, has been pretty invisible the last 3 games. Does it get you thinking, and JT Miller makes $8 million. That's, with the cap going up, that's not astronomical. And, coupled with Sean Couturier being older and having all that money owed to him, I mean, I'm not saying it's even something I would do, but... What makes me wonder if the timeline has moved up to acquire a center is you have Michkov here. Wouldn't you like him to play with a legit high-end center, which this team does not have right now?
Yeah.
So, that's why I wonder a little bit about a guy like that, because, and he's not ancient. He's 31 years old. You see Sidney Crosby's how old now? He's still at the top of his game. And again, I'm not saying he's Sidney Crosby, but I think the right kind of player can be still effective late in their career. I mean, I saw a 36-year-old Joe Thornton one year after Christmas was second in the league in scoring behind Sidney Crosby. So,
once upon a time, we saw a relatively ancient Jaromir Jagr come in and fundamentally change a Flyers team, and
let's remember,
benefited in a massive way.
This is the third or fourth youngest team in the league, and that's with, I think, counting Eric Johnson and Ryan Ellis. So, adding one 31 or 32-year-old isn't going to completely. You're not all of a sudden going to become an old team.
Yeah.
You'll become a little bit older at one position, but Christ, this guy's a hell of a player, right? I mean, wouldn't you be curious if I'm, the way I phrase it, if you're Danny and you're John Tortorella, aren't you a little curious when you see in that top line, like, how would JT Miller look between Owen Tippett and Travis Konechny, two guys that can finish when they get their opportunities, rather than a Morgan Frost?
I'm not really that intrigued by the idea, to be honest.
All right, that's fair, yeah.
Listen, I think that if they were a year or two farther down the line and you had that other potentially elite guy maybe a year away, or if like last year, if you had ended up with like a Demidov who was a couple years away, I'd say, yeah, hell yeah. Absolutely. Go get Mishkov an actual center to play with. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders, and I know that you said that you don't think they would ultimately look at a guy like Pettersson, but like 5 years younger, has a $12 million cap hit. It's massive. You think about, are you going to make a deal for Pettersson now? Absolutely not. Could you in the offseason? They have $6.5 million of dead cap and retained money coming off the books. If you trade Aristo, that's another $5.
Yeah.
You're practically there. It just becomes a case of,
I mean, if you like him,
how much draft capital are you willing to give up? Like I had 100
if you truly like him,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure they truly like him. Keep in mind, Rick Tocchet and Keith Jones are like, BFFs, right? So there's probably a little bit of insight there into him, but at some point, obviously, you're going to have to identify a center or two and go out and be aggressive and get them. And that might not be the time. It might not even be this summer. It might not be until next year, right? Or even later. So, as you said, year 2 of what they've already been pretty public about is going to be a 3-year process. But at some point, I think you have to get a little bit more aggressive in terms of finding a high-end center. And so maybe that's not JT Miller, but maybe it's somebody we haven't even brought up yet, or nobody even knows is available.
I mean, that's the thing, right? How many people knew that Mikko Rantanen was like on the brink of being dealt?
I didn't hear it at all. So
I mean, Nathan McKinnon effectively said in the aftermath, like a day or two later, he's like, I never thought there would ever come a time that he wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Those kind of players get moved. It was almost funny, like the people who were upset about the Rantanen move from the Flyers' perspective, which again made no sense. They were like, well, Danny had the press conference a couple days earlier and was like, players of a certain level don't become available.
Yeah.
And like 2 days later, Rantanen gets moved. And it's like at the same time, you don't have an asset that you have that has even remotely equal value that you could try to make a move like that.
No, and keep in mind, he's still a pending unrestricted free agent, and Carolina traded for Jake Gensel, didn't get him re-signed. If you really want Mikko Rantanen, there's a chance that he's going to be testing the market. It's a good chance he's going to be testing the market in the summertime.
Yeah,
at this point, if I'm him, I'm playing out the year. And
were you surprised at all that when that trade went through, that there wasn't the secondary tweet was, we have agreed to a contract extension?
A little bit.
I was a little bit surprised there was no.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but I was surprised that.
Yeah, and a deal like that, you would expect that.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
I guess that really is a message to your fan base, though, in that case, that we don't even care. We want to have this guy long term, but we're so all in on going for it this year.
They are, yeah.
I mean, it's a ballsy move.
Yep.
You certainly kind of respect, I guess, that
you do. I mean, the last time I covered one of those was when the Sharks traded for Erik Karlsson, and he was a pending UFA. And had he stayed healthy, they could have won the Stanley Cup that year. They went to the conference finals, but he got hurt. Some other guys got hurt. The mistake was when they re-signed him, then it all went to hell. But, I think you respect GMs that really go for it when they think they have the right pieces in place to have a championship team. So, full marks to Eric Tulsky for having the stones to pull that sort of thing off, and they're going to be an interesting team to watch. But from the Flyers' perspective, I mean, if Rantanen were a free agent is it something that they would at least consider? In my mind, yeah, I think they would, because they're going to have the cap room, presumably, not next year, but the year after, when they have all this money coming off the books. So, you know, they haven't really hinted to us whether or not the timeline's moved up. In fact, I think they've kind of pumped the brakes on that, and they keep mentioning it's going to take 3 years to get all this money off the books. But, you know, we're going to be 2 years into it this summer. Yeah, you're going to have to start forward thinking a little bit and start making some moves. And I think they will, but right now they're still just in the patience phase.
It is kind of wild in a sense. If you look at it, macro view, they probably had some idea in their mind of whether or not Michkov was going to be able to come over sooner than later.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I'm saying you have to play out the scenarios.
Yeah.
If he's going to come over, we do X, Y, Z. This is the plan. If he doesn't come over and he's not here until 26, it would have been right, the 26 season. Then you say, all right, this is what the timeline looks like. These are the moves that we made. I don't know. I don't know if it really did fundamentally change things, but it certainly at least puts the thought in your mind of you can't give him another year. You can't go into next season without him having a legitimate center to play. Yeah. That, to me, at least of all the things,
I agree with you. I agree with you, yeah. Now, you know, I've reported this. I don't know if other people have too, but they first found out that Michkov was potentially coming over at the draft combine in Buffalo last year. That's early June, I think, right? So there wasn't a whole lot of time for them to maybe change their plans in terms of shaping the roster. But I do think you're going to have to get a center in here. And this is what I asked Danny the other day. It doesn't have to be a 24-year-old, 25-year-old center. You could have a potential stopgap, like a guy that might be in his 30s, but who is better than the 4 guys they got out here now, or at least more established. I don't know. You know, I haven't looked at the names yet. I don't know who what might be, but I do think it moves up the timeline to try to find someone that can potentially mesh with your potential superstar. It's a lot of potentials, but yeah. A
lot of potentials, but then again, it is a rebuild, and you just never know. Things can take a turn at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
We'll see. If you haven't found him yet, Kevin Kurz does some sensational work.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely worth the subscription over at The Athletics. Thanks for hopping on the show. Thanks for pinch hitting here for Anthony SanFilippo, not getting angry when his tech fell out, you know. And if you were angry, you kept it on the inside. You did it well.
Thanks. No, I'm fine. All good.
But thank you. Intern Andrew, we're going to try to get into some preview picks. I know that Ant sent his pick over a little bit ago.
He went 3-2 Devils.
3-2 Devils?
Yes.
Did he give any logic behind it?
No, he just said, I'm leaving. My pick is 3-2 Devils. That was it.
Do you have a thought either way tonight?
On this game?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd pick the Devils probably if I had to put
I don't know if Bundy sent his over. I saw Bundy walking about. We'll put that over on.
All right.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
There's Bundy. All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
We'll get Bundy here in a second. I'll tell you what. I think that the way that things are kind of trending, and the fact that the Flyers' last win came against this Devils team, Sam Ersson back in net. I don't know if I'm ba-da-pa-pa-pa loving it. Bundy, do you have a prediction for tonight's game?
I do have a prediction for tonight's game. I'm going to go 3-2 Flyers.
3-2 Flyers. Ant went 3-2 Devils. Intern, what did you think?
I have the opposite feeling you do. I'm going 5-2 New Jersey.
5-2 New Jersey?
3 games in a row for the Flyers. They've only gotten 1 goal in regulation.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I know. That's why I can't see a high-scoring game. He shears out. Are we live still?
We are, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We're just chilling out, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going Flyers. I mean, this is kind of like, this is the most important game of the year for the Flyers. I mean, and the next game will be also. They're just too far behind. Those 2 Metro Division losses in regulation are just killers. Like, they're just absolute staples. Like, they have to go. So that's why tonight's game is super important. It's also the first of a back-to-back with this team. And I think that, you know, I always say the team that gets the first win has a little bit more luxury on the second night. So this is a massive, massive game for the Flyers. That's why I'm marking it as high as it is.
I'm actually going to surprise people. I'm going to go 2-1. I think it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
I could see the Flyers winning this one.
Yeah.
I don't like the low scoring. I think that that's a serious issue, obviously. But Sam Ersson, I expect to bounce back tonight. The 2-1 Flyers.
All right.
We will be back. First intermission, second intermission, and post game here on the Press Row Show. If you haven't done so already, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And we will talk to all of you in the first intermission here on the Press Row Show. Welcome to the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, postgame show. The side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, and south of the 52nd state, Canada. I'm Russ Joy. That's Bundy. Intern Andrew on the ones and twos, and of course, Anthony SanFilippo, not with us tonight. He is on assignment. Tried to join pregame, and that was un desastre. That was not good. But Bundy, you're here, and I'm glad you're here. And I'll tell you what else I'm glad about. Flyers with a 2-0 lead in that period, and I don't know if you want to start with the goals. I don't know if you want to start with the macro view thoughts on it. But
well, I think the thing that got them going, I mean, right off the gate, out of the gate, the Flyers ended up giving the Devils a 4-minute power play. Ristolainen high stick one of the Devil players, and they went to the box for 4 minutes. And the Flyers did a masterful job killing that penalty. The Devils had maybe a setup for maybe 30 seconds out of the 4 minutes total. Flyers cleared the puck to perfection after that. Just about every single time, and then that gave them a little bit of a chance to build on it. The Flyers got themselves a one power play. Point goes right back to Bobby Brink off the initial draw. He's at the point, shot, hit Brett Pesce, bounced into the net off the Devils defenseman, Brett Pesce. That gave the Flyers a 1-0 lead. Just like a few seconds later, off the draw, it was a broken play in the middle of the ice. Lawton just took
in his return to the lineup.
It ended up being a 2-on-2. Lawton shot the puck, and then Farabee weaved his way through the two defensemen and got the garbage rebound, and he ended up slipping it past Allen. 2-0 Flyers. Really good first period for a team that knows it's having a hard time getting going offensively, but it sure looks like the way they played against the Devils, they might just have this team's number for some reason.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit pregame, just in that couple of minutes or minute and a half that you and I were together, but you're coming off of two horrific results. I mean, if you care about the possibility of remaining within striking-ish distance of a playoff spot, you lose 2 games to Metro teams on the road. Rangers get blown out. Islanders game not particularly great. What kind of message do you think it sends to the locker room? I mean, obviously, these guys are the ones who did, but what kind of message do you think it sends to those guys internally? Hey, we bounced back here. And started off very strong.
Great first period. I mean, there's no shame in that at all. I mean, they did a lot of good things, killed a great penalty, kept the Devils to the perimeter, as that's what the Flyers were doing when they went 5-0-1 in those games. They did a great job of checking right up the middle of the ice. And they made things difficult for New Jersey. I don't think New Jersey didn't have a whole lot of chances in the middle of the ice. They're trying to get some shot opportunities. Jack Hughes turned the puck over about 4 times entering the zone. That's a good thing because he's their best skilled player right now, especially with Hischier out of the lineup, who brings a great two-way center to the game, who the Devils are sorely missing tonight. But no, I look at the first period, and I think the Flyers had just a great first period in terms of getting 2 goals, killing off a major power play to start the period in terms of 4 minutes. Not much more they could have done in terms of getting better in that period. And the thing is now is when the game settled in, how do they look at 2-0? They got to keep pressing forward.
A guy that you have to feel pretty good about. There goes a New Jersey fan. What right here? Jersey fan. What do you think about when people get the jerseys and they don't have a number or a name on the back?
Is that the one that just said Jersey on it?
It says Jersey.
To me, it just looks like the guy's wearing a jersey and he's telling me he's got a jersey on.
Oh, because it's Jersey. Because
Jersey.
Jersey.
That's a jersey. Oh, nice.
It's kind of ironic. All right. One of the guys that you kind of have to feel something for or feel something about coming out of that period, Sam Ersson back in net for the first time since allowing 5 to the Rangers. What did you think of his performance in that first period?
I don't think he saw a whole lot. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of great chances coming from the other end. I mean, the Devils are trying to work the perimeter, and as somebody just said here, the Devils are a good fit. But yeah, there it is, because they're a perimeter team which plays right into the Flyers' hands. The Flyers are locking down the middle of the ice. It's going to be very difficult for New Jersey to get anything going. And I think that's a pretty fair evaluation. If they're going to try to play skill from the perimeter, then it does fit right into what the Flyers' game plan is, and that's locking down the middle of the ice and making it difficult for anybody to get scoring chances there. When the Flyers are on the top of their game and playing well, there's not a whole lot of chances against them in terms of the way that they're structured defensively. They have to play in between the hash marks hard, and they've done a great job of that so far in this game.
Probably also helps that it's a big crowd tonight.
It is. It's first responders night.
Yeah, Greg from Vineland was talking about it here in the comments, but big crowd tonight. There was a crowd last week, not a very big crowd, not a very loud crowd, but tonight, very packed house, and you said first responders night.
First responders night, which is a great night.
Yeah.
Honor a lot of the great first responders in this in the Delaware Valley community in Philadelphia. So that was, and it was a hot ticket here tonight. I know that because I asked for some tickets, and they said you have to wait until game day because of the first responders night. So that's a really good sign.
I'm going to bring on intern Andrew because, as we all know, friends, there's nothing quite like having intern Andrew here in the first period where he drop some kind of knowledge on us, and that knowledge comes in the form of the stat of the night.
Yes.
Intern, do you
Oh.
have a stat of the night?
I do, as a matter of fact.
So you understood the assignment.
You could say that, yeah.
Is this a stat that is going to make us feel warm and fuzzy?
I think so.
Okay.
Both warm and fuzzy, I believe.
All right, well, then we'll allow it.
All right. So you guys touched on it just a second ago, but the 2 goals that the Flyers scored just 28 seconds apart by Brink and Farabee, that's actually the second quickest 2-goal span by the Flyers this season. What?
Treat it like trivia.
Okay, do you know what the fastest was?
Do you remember?
This season?
This
Yeah.
season.
I don't.
I think I know.
Go ahead.
25 seconds. Owen Tippett.
It was 23, but you're right. It was the game against Florida, December 5th.
Yeah.
He scored 2 by himself, 23 seconds
Yeah.
apart.
And that was the fastest that a Flyer had scored 2 goals apart since I think Claude Giroux did it in like 19 seconds or something.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Right.
I forgot about that part. But so that's actually 3 times this season the Flyers have scored 2 goals in 30 seconds or less. 3 times they've done it this year. That's good for 6th most in the entire league.
Wow.
Vegas is number 1. They've done it 6 times this year.
Wow.
Scoring in bunches.
Yeah. That was it.
That was a good stat.
Good stat. Yeah, it's a
nice
good
job,
stat.
kid.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have a good trivia question for a second intermission.
I'm excited for this trivia one, actually. I've been working on it for a little bit, so...
How long does a little bit... How long do you think he takes for these trivia
I
questions?
think he takes his time.
It depends on the team.
I think he's pretty thoughtful.
Do you think his hate for the Devils...
Yeah, I think it's shining
does he get
through.
he gets up for those kind of games?
You have some animosity towards the Devils, don't you?
Yeah, I think the Capitals are the only team that I dislike more.
Really?
Yes, I think New Jersey's my 31st favorite team. Is what I would
What
say.
a year they're having.
Capitals?
Nobody saw that coming.
I know.
They're big, they're physical, they play in the middle of the ice.
How many goals does Ovechkin need?
Needs 20.
21, I think? Or is it
20.
20? Okay.
He'll get there.
I can't believe how
He won't
quickly
this year.
bounced
I don't
back
think he'll
You
get
don't
there
think
this
so?
year. No, I don't think so. That's a goal every 3.
Every 2.5 games or so?
Yeah,
No.
that's a lot. That's a
okay.
lot. Yeah.
I hope he breaks the record.
Yeah, I do too. I think it'd be great. Be good for the
It
game.
could be good for the league.
It'd be pretty cool. I think the coolest sports memory I have was I remember I stayed up and watched Bonds break the home run record.
Yeah.
That was cool. So it will be an interesting moment if Ovechkin ends up breaking.
That's when he had all the Popeye or the spinach in him, though, right?
When his head was
Allegedly.
like this,
His head was 3 times bigger in
They used to have
2000
to-
than it was in
they used to
1989.
Allegedly.
they had to cut 2 helmets and fuse them
Jeez.
together. They would
Fuse
take,
them together.
They would take the flaps off of one or off the one.
Is
and then
that
they put it
that's
together.
that's not considered the record though, right? No.
Well, I mean, it kind of is.
Officially.
I think did
Is
they
it
still
official?
recognize it? Oh, 73, wasn't it?
What?
The home run record.
763.
No, I meant the single season. You weren't talking about the single season?
Oh no, I'm talking about when he broke Aaron's.
the all time.
Yeah.
I thought you
all
were
time.
talking about the single season. That's
No.
my bad. Okay.
That was a little bit before my time. That was like early 2000s. So
Okay.
I wasn't really watching.
But yeah,
sports
he had a
then.
lot of spinach, and his head got huge because, as we all know, people who eat a lot of spinach get a big head. Okay. All right. Well,
It's
we'll
good
talk
trivia.
To you, we'll talk to you second intermission as you, drop some knowledge on.
That's a fine trivia.
I was. You know what? Good on him. He's getting better at this.
Fine trivia. These Metro games are just so important for the standpoint of points, like taken away from the other team. I mean, I know the Devils are ahead of the Flyers, but man, these 4-point games are just massive. Like they really are in terms of where you are. That's why those 2 losses were just devastating. The Flyers have got to make sure they keep ahead in this game. It's a super important game.
You know what's crazy? This is not to relitigate this whole thing. The other day, I think it was it might have been after the Islanders loss. There were a whole bunch of things going around Twitter. I'm sure you saw the Rantanen trade. We can
Yeah.
talk about that for a second. But I think the Flyers were at like the 11th or the 12th fewest points or whatever. Like if you looked at the lottery, if it happened that day, and it's like, well, anything can happen. Like because of how bunched together everybody is. Right now, the Flyers, after those 2 losses to fellow Metro teams, they're sitting with the 8th fewest points, or the 8th best odds of getting the number 1 pick in the draft. And it's crazy because the disparity that we've kind of outlined a few times here, 10 points is all that separates Detroit with the 12th worst record or whatever.
Yeah.
And Buffalo at number 3 with 41.
Yeah, I mean,
And even if you wanted to expand that like by 2 points or 3 points, Vancouver right now, 15th, if the lottery just like went according to plan, Vancouver would be 15th with 52 points. That's only 11 points different from Buffalo at number 3.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's 9 points different from number 4 with Nashville.
I know. I was talking to one of the Devils reps before the game walking up today. Actually, it was Kenny Danico, who's former defenseman, and we were talking, and we were both saying, like, it's not going to be out of the realm to have 7 teams vying for the last 2 spots the last week of the regular season. And I think it will. Like, you're going to have that many teams where every single point is just precious.
I mean, to that point, right? So if you figure the Rangers right now have 52 points in 49 games.
Yeah.
They would be 13th in the lottery right now, 52 points. To get into the playoffs, they would need 3 more points. Now, that's independent of the division in the conference, right? But, like, point-wise, they're 3 out of a playoff spot. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talk about parity in the league, and you talk about how, like, this Flyers team, if this league were actually good, right? You'd say night in and night out, this Flyers team maybe doesn't have enough to win a lot of these games. But because of the parity that exists,
there's the
you
chance.
could just as easily be top 7 in the draft as you could one of the final bubble teams to get in.
You go out and go 5-0-1 again in another 6 games, and you got yourself in a pretty good spot again. You know, that doesn't mean you're going to be in the playoff picture if you will go 5-0-1 if you're the Flyers, but you're certainly going to be climbing the standings. The problem is, like, you got to look on Thursday and Friday when you lose 2 games. I mean, it's crushing, especially in your own division. Regulation losses. No overtime points, nothing. I mean, they are just absolutely devastating because the other team just climbs right up on you so quick. And, you know, with the games coming at us so fast and furious, I mean, that's why you have got, I mean, it almost feels like you got to win every night if you're going to make the playoffs. Like, and you're not, because there's going to be other teams playing each other that are battling for the same spot, and teams are going to win that you think are going to lose, and vice versa. And so it gets crazy. But, you know, good start in this one for the Flyers, getting that 2-0 lead. The Devils seem like they're a fragile team for some reason. And I know they haven't played like that all year, but if they really are this perimeter team, and this, like I said, this feeds right into what the Flyers want to do.
I saw the comment here, and I'm going to go to Tony Louie here, who says, Bettman wants at least 2 more teams, though. You know, we've talked about the idea of expansion and how already there are too many teams, right? What's the nice way to say that a lot of these teams don't have enough talent to actually field a competent NHL team?
There is not enough players to put 2 more teams in this league. If you want to just be completely honest, there's not enough.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to field. You're gonna start thinning this league right out, and it's thin enough as it is. It is. I've talked to head coaches in this league.
Yeah.
Literally talked to head coaches this year that said to me, word for word, you could take my 3rd and 4th line and swap them with any single 3rd or 4th line in the league, and it would be exactly the same. And that was from actually 2 coaches. Both teams are in playoff spots right now that said that. It's all power play. It's all your skilled guys that get the job done at the end of the day. But there's not enough guys to go through 23 more players to make a competitive roster in this league. I just don't see how that's going to happen.
If it were to happen.
It's going to happen.
Well, if they were to expand to 34, and it's a league that doesn't have, or it's a league that has a salary cap, realistically, how many of those 34 teams do you think would be cup contenders? Because you would think that after a while, like, would free agents start to just flock? Would they, in a 34-team league, would you see more players say, you know what, I might forego more money, or I might flock down to Florida where the tax burden is different?
That's happening everywhere now.
And you're going to have it where there are going to be like 6 good teams in the league?
I was just going to say to you, you asked me?
Yeah.
I was going to say 6 teams.
Oh,
6 teams. That's what you get out of 34. That'll be contenders. You'll water this league down to a point where you won't recognize it. I'm telling you, you're going to add another 50 American League jobs to the NHL. That's what you're getting. I agree with Quebec. Quebec needs a team again, and we may as well bring Hartford back too. I loved Hartford. I did. I loved playing the Whale. Great fans. They were great.
Do you know that Hartford had a team?
You know they were called the Whalers, right?
They became the Hurricanes in, I think, 97?
Something like that, yeah.
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 The Hurricanes mascot, his jersey number is, I think it's 97.
How many goals all time did you have against Hartford, Bundy?
How many goals?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever scored against Hartford.
Look that up.
I never did. I can almost tell you I never scored against the Whale. Great uniforms.
They were great uniforms.
I loved Hartford, too. It was like a pretty quaint little town. It was pretty cool. Just go in, you play. It was a little bit like Buffalo in a sense, but it was a much nicer town than Buffalo.
So if you had to fire a team into the sun, to get Hartford back in the league, which team do you think makes the most sense to?
I would have taken Coyotes and put them right back in Hartford. I mean, they're going to Utah. All's warm and fuzzy in Utah right now. They are.
Utah seems to be embracing the team.
Yeah.
Which is certainly better than what they had in the desert.
In the desert, it was awful. That was a disgrace to the NHL, the Phoenix Coyotes.
Which market is more likely to have an NHL team return to it? Atlanta or Phoenix?
Well, Phoenix, I don't think will ever get an NHL team again. I mean, that would be.
So?
I mean, if they did, that would be crazy.
Well,
Atlanta, there's talk of it. I mean,
how many times did Atlanta have a team?
Two. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And then, but apparently they're telling us, so there's a group of people in Atlanta that says there's a great area in Atlanta for hockey. It just wasn't downtown.
Atlanta's turned into a really good sports city.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm just saying, like it.
I mean, they have good baseball, football. I mean, you know,
their soccer fan base is insane, right? Like they still fill up Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the football stadium. They still get at least 30-something thousand people, which is the lower level of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a good sports city. Make of that what you will. Bundy, we have a minute and a half here before they drop the puck in the second period. If you were John Tortorella and you're talking to the team, you have a 2-0 lead, a very dangerous lead in hockey. What's the number one thing you're preaching to the team about starting this period?
Keep playing good defense. They've done a great job, and they have not taken away from what they've done offensively. Devils had more shots on a goal at one sequence because of the power play, but Flyers have done a much better job through the course of the entire hockey game, playing better so far in the first 20 minutes. They're going to have to keep that up. They really are, and they're going to have to stay out of the penalty box, which will be pivotal as well.
We will be back during the second intermission as well as postgame. If you haven't done so already, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Subscribe to Snow the Goalie on YouTube. We will be having a new episode, allegedly, tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you follow and pay attention and subscribe to that. We have a ruckus going on near our setup right now, and I'm looking for security to see if they're going to do anything about the ruckus. I don't think they are. Security has. Oh, there's one. Okay. Funny, it's rascallions allowed up here by
Who's
the
that?
setup.
Rascallions?
Rascallions. These humans next to us that are causing a ruckus up here on the balcony level.
A lot of all Devils fans.
They probably are. All right, we'll be back. Second intermission here on the Press Row Show. Talk to you soon. Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame intermission postgame show this side of Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, and south of the 52nd state, Canada. You got that on one breath. That was pretty good.
Good job, Russ.
Bundy is here. I'm here. Intern Andrew on the ones and twos. Anthony SanFilippo remains on assignment in a tuxedo in what looked like a broom closet, a janitorial closet, pregame. Flyers entered the period with a 2-0 lead. They extended it to a 3-0 lead, had a beautiful flurry with about 5 minutes left in the period. Ton of shots on net. Ultimately, Jersey does claw one back. Bundy, your thoughts on that period?
Good period. I thought Jersey had a little bit of the momentum early in that period. They had more shots on goal. I think they had like a 17 or 18 to 12 shot advantage at one point. Flyers caught up, but that one shift by the Flyers had Devils hemmed in their zone for almost 3 minutes. Devils could not get the puck out. The Flyers had a great flurry of opportunities. They got a lot of shots back on that sequence. Devils got a late shot there. Dougie Hamilton shot, hit the crossbar, and as it hit, it went straight up high. It bounced right down. It looked like it was going to hit Urson in the back of in his back as he was behind him. The puck was following behind him, and Sanheim tried to swat it out. Instead, it hit Urson in the back, in his back anyway, and fell into the net. It would have been the same result regardless. If Sanheim would have been able just to whack it up a little bit higher, he might have been able to do something with it. But no one to blame for that. It was just a good shot, and it just an unlucky bounce where it fell. So that happens sometimes. But a good period, and the Flyers now have a 2-goal cushion heading into the third period. And I mean, by all accounts and the way they're playing, this is the kind of game you got to lock down.
Yeah.
You shut this game down right now. You've got the 2-goal cushion. You've had a good 40 minutes of play. There's no need for you to go backwards or backpedal at all in this game. The only thing it is in this building is it's freezing cold. So I had to put my jacket on. Even intern Andrew agrees. I just could not go without a jacket anymore. It's freezing at the Wells Fargo Center. You gonna zip it up, Russ?
I got a V-neck undershirt
Yeah,
on. I might strip down.
Last week I had to wear long johns.
Shove it over, man.
I did. I'm not gonna lie. I wore long johns and one of those warm shirts under my other stuff. I mean, last week was insane. That was like Canada.
Oh my gosh.
That was Canada cold.
Unbelievable. I put on snow tires just for the cold weather.
Good for you.
I didn't. No, I didn't. I saw a comment over here from Seth Pamilia. When I get back to that intern, can you find that one? I saw it. There we go. It says Matt Vey on second power play and on the third line. Talk to me, fam.
Well,
Mishkov has struggled of late.
Yeah, 5-on-5 has been a real struggle for him in terms of finding his flow. So to keep him offensively sound and to give him a nugget, they're going to use him on the second power play. So, you know, you still get an opportunity. If it's not happening for him at even strength, or Torts is having a hard time getting his minutes or mitigating those minutes, then it's not the end of the world because he does get second power play time. So he'll come out of it. I mean, he's a rookie. He's going to go through stuff, as we all know, guys that have played. It doesn't matter how much talent and skill you have. It's finding and formulating a plan to play in this league for 82 games a year, and he's on the beginning of his journey. So I'm not too really concerned about him. I know fans want to see him in the points scoring column every single night, but that's not realistic. And watching his game tonight, he hasn't been bad. He's made some good plays in the power play, but again, it's finding time and space to get him even strength minutes and where he's going to feel comfortable.
I thought for a second I heard people booing. Did you hear that? But it's Mites on Ice.
Can't boo the Mites on Ice.
Who's booing the Mites on Ice?
No, it's the two Zambonis are out there right now. I thought I heard the same thing though. I don't know what it was.
Maybe it was just like a white noise that we were hearing here in the headphones.
I don't know.
I was like, who's booing and who boos Zambonis? Who would boo a Zamboni?
Can't boo a Zamboni driver.
Can't boo the Zambonis. All right, anyway. It's that time in the show. Second intermission means one thing, and that, of course, now we might be down an instrument, but intern Andrew is here with his trivia. Bundy, are you ready to tune up the band?
I am.
1, 2, a skiddly diddly doo.
Thank you. By the way, Bundy, I regret to inform you, you never scored against the Hartford Whalers.
I told you that.
Yeah.
You did say that.
So I went and double checked. However, on March 10th, 1998, do you know who you did score against?
March 10th, 1998.
Swear if you guess.
I
have a guess.
I'll say the Boston Bruins.
The Quebec Nordiques.
No.
What day was it again?
March 10th, 1998. This is just a setup for my trivia question. This isn't the actual question.
Yeah,
Oh, it's Cooper DeJean.
Oh! It's Cooper DeJean. That's why we're hearing the ooh sound.
Okay.
They're not booing.
They're
It's Cooper
Coopering.
DeJean.
Okay.
And Cooper's riding the Zamboni.
I don't know if you know this or not. He's a good player.
He's an exciting white.
I was just about to say. Here on the program.
There you go. Coop's
the
riding the Zamboni. Is he not? That's him on the Zamboni.
Yeah, it was DeJean. They
Who's
showed
on
him.
the other one? Is that the
don't
other
know.
exciting white, Reed Blankenship?
Is it Blankenship? It might be. I don't know.
No, that's not them on the Zamboni.
No, that one is. The other one looks like a kid.
Okay.
I don't think it's.
The other one looks like a kid too.
That's,
Yeah.
No.
I
One
think
is definitely Cooper DeJean. They showed him on the Zamboni. This one right here, this is Cooper DeJean. That other one is a small human. That is a small child. Anyway. You can't blame us. We needed to get to the bottom of why there was booing or oohing. Anyway.
All right, I'll just save you the time.
No. March
10th, 1998, you scored against the Devils.
Okay.
Why did you have to ruin it?
Because that's just the setup for what my actual question
Well, we
is.
got distracted.
I know.
March 10th, 1998.
He didn't hear your answer.
It was a first goal of the game, if I'm not mistaken. I think Roger Nielsen, did he just take over as the? He just took over as a coach the day before, and I scored the first goal as him as a head coach.
Boy, that's a good way to make a good impression on a coach.
First goal for the Flyers.
First goal for the Flyers.
Yes.
It was a bomb past Brodeur. Yes.
So I was going to say.
Yeah, and that was so Roger Nielsen. That was his first game coaching us that year. If you could check the stats after, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So when you have 29 career goals, you can kind of sparingly put yourself around each and every one of them. And so I think that was the game. I took a point shot and it went. There was nobody in front. Just blew one by the glove of Brodeur, which never happens. And I think he looked at his glove after, like, how the hell did I not stop that?
So I was going to say, not a bad thing to have on your resume that you scored a goal against Martin Brodeur.
Yeah.
So in going back and doing research, I've found he is the only goalie currently in the Hockey Hall of Fame that you ever scored against. However, there are 4 other goalies currently in the Hall of Fame that you have gotten at least one assist against. Can you
Okay.
name those other 4?
Yeah, Dominic Hasek.
That's one.
Dominic Hasek, hold on here. 4 other goalies I had an assist against. Patrick Waugh
Yep.
and Eddie Belfour.
That's 3. The 4th one I figured would be the toughest. You got exactly 1 point against this guy.
What year did he get that point?
I don't
You
remember.
don't have to give it to me. Is it Eastern or Western Conference?
West.
An assist against a Western Conference team. I'm thinking, I said Dallas with Belfour, so Waugh, Belfour, I had one against Brodeur, and I'm just trying to think of who's in the Hall of Fame. That's where I'm kind of stuck right now in terms of West. Was he older when I was younger?
Yes, I believe he debuted in 1981. I will say this, he was more known for a different team than the one he was playing against when you played against
Was
him.
the team he was known for a Western or an Eastern Conference team?
Also West.
You got me stumped.
Do you want the team?
Yeah.
He's more known for a different team, but at the time he was playing for St. Louis.
What was his more well-known team?
The Oilers.
The Grand Fuhrer.
Grand Fuhrer. Yeah, one assist against him.
How about that? That's pretty cool.
They count all the same.
Five Hall of Fame goalies. You were in their back. They were in your back pocket.
Yeah, I owned them. Dominated them. I dominated the Dominator. I thought I had one against Hasek in the playoffs.
I just kind of. You probably did. I think
Or was it Steve
Belfour
Shields
also.
then?
You
Yeah,
did.
Yeah. All right. That's good. Good
Intern,
stuff, Andrew.
good. That was a
Good
nice
job,
job
buddy.
today.
There's a couple of people that said Osgood, by the way. You did have assists against Osgood. He's not in the Hall of Fame, though. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, I had a goal against Osgood, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Osgood. Richter not in the Hall of Fame either.
Richter, that's surprising, huh? Richter, yeah, that's weird when he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Hey,
He's a
Bundy,
great goalie for a long time.
Can I ask you a question? I'm going to anyway, but you have this thing where you said you scored how many? 28?
29.
29 goals in the NHL, and you have pretty damn near photographic memory of all of them. If we were to sit down with Alex Ovechkin,
No, there's no way he'd remember. He's just scored too many of
how
them.
many do you think he would remember?
50.
Really?
50, that would be just like where you'd actually say to yourself, because I can remember mine, and I think there's some that him, like, think of the overtime and the giant heroics that he's put out in front of us for the last 15 years or whatever it is, you know? I think it's pretty amazing, actually, what he's done. It's going to be cool when he breaks that record, because I really didn't know if he was going to be around long enough to do so.
There was a question over here from Scotty's Wild Adventures, who says, Russ, when Bettman steps down, does Gretzky make hockey great again? Gretzky, would he ever be the commissioner?
Did they make it great again? That's a great question. You know, like, you fans enjoy the game? I mean, do you like watching the game? When I ask you, I mean, is there something they could do better? What could the league do better to make the game better? If you think it's not a good game, getting rid of the too much defense. I mean, there's a lot of lockdown hockey. That's one of the biggest things you talk to people is a lot about the guys that used to play. There's not as much physicality. Scoring is a little bit harder, and 5-on-5 even strength. It's like some nights it's so tight that there's just no space at all on the ice. But if you guys have any ideas, share them with us. We'd love to hear them.
Should get rid of the goalie pads.
No.
If you get rid of the goalie pads, nobody's going to play goalie. The net is empty, scoring goes up. It's brilliant.
Get rid of the shootout is actually a pretty fun one. But do you like finality to the game? Because if you play 3-on-3, I mean, I don't know how long it's going to go.
I hate ties.
I mean, you can't have a tie. I mean, and just in the case that, let's say a 3-on-3 goes 20 minutes, you can't play a 20-minute 3-on-3. I don't think it would last that long, but that's still an awful lot of time, especially the way they play the 3-on-3 now. I mean, they're just regrouping.
That was going to be my next question, is do you think they get rid of that? Once you enter the zone, you're not allowed to take it back out in overtime.
I don't know how you're going to do that. That just adds another whistle to the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true, too.
You know, and coaches they game plan for what they were doing. I remember when the 3-on-3 started, it was just go forward. And then some coaches like, no, bring it back. Let's regroup. We'll get a line change. And it kind of changed the whole scheme of the 3-on-3 in terms of how it was played. But, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things. I mean, again, the lack of physicality. You know, you bring a lot more Europeans and Russian players over here, and that's the way the league's going to be played. It's played like a very finesse European-style game now. The NHL game is.
We see some people in the comments saying, you know, rather have a tie than a shootout. I agree with Landros up there, who said 3-on-3 for 10 minutes. I think if you can't get a winner after 10 minutes in the run of play, then fine, a tie is okay.
All right.
I really don't like the shoot. When the shootout first happened, I said, all right, cool, because I do like finality. I don't like ties.
I like finality. I like it like an end game score. Like, so I know the shootout brings that. I know people don't like it, but it does bring an end game result to the. You know, when you used to leave like a game and it was a 2-2 tie, it was a weird feeling. You know, now that you think about it, you're like, you know, we just tied.
That game that you scored against Brodeur was a 2-2 tie.
Yeah, it was a 2-2 tie. Yeah.
They would never do this, but what if, I actually hate this as I say it, you keep the overtime rules the same, okay? If you win in overtime, you get 2 points. You lose in overtime, you get 1 point. If it goes to a shootout, you only get 1 point for a win in the shootout, 0 points for a shootout loss. It incentivizes teams to go for it in overtime, because either way you end up with a point. If you win it, you end up with 2. If it goes to the shootout, it's almost a penalty that, like, all right, somebody does end up with a point. However, it would have been better to get it into the run of play.
Yeah. No, I know.
I mean, it's kind of stupid, but at the same time, it would incentivize teams to actually go for it in that 5 minutes.
You got to put the incentive in. That's where you got to make the incentive for the players, because right now it's like they're almost, some teams are playing for the shootout. Look at Detroit last week. So it is a good idea, though, Russ. I do. There it is.
I don't know how you would. Like, the only problem is I don't know how you would enforce it. Like, I don't know how you could then say to somebody, like, especially if you're a team, like, just imagine. You play a really strong game. It's 4-4. You go to overtime. Frenetic pace, just back and forth for 5 minutes. And at the end of 65 minutes, you essentially say to one of the teams, you busted your ass for 65 minutes, but sorry, guys, you only get a point.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the downside. That's why, listen, a lot of ideas are out there. It's just, I don't know how you'd end up.
I think the NHL, I have a feeling they're going to restructure the way that the game is played within the next 3 years.
You think so?
I do. I think they got to be very, very careful the way the game's going right now. The league is still trying to draw the new fan in. And I think some nights when they watching the game, I think the new fan is going to be a little bit unsure of what he's watching. If you're trying to, they got to find a way to bring that new guy in where he's like, I love this. Like, I absolutely love the game of hockey. And and that's not the case for everybody right now, but there's a way to do it because it is a great game.
Would you change anything about the size of the goal or about the size of the rink?
I don't know. No, I think the rink size is good. I like the big ice. I don't think you can take away the seats in the building. I don't think owners are going to want to do that.
Sure.
Making the nets you're going to really open a real bad can of worms with that because of the history of the game.
Yeah.
If you make the nets an inch wider, you're not going to be able to statistically match up the histories for goaltenders. I think the net is fine. I think there's a lot they can do. They have to put a committee together of former players and current guys and see what works and what doesn't.
It's interesting. This is a very engaged crowd over, especially on YouTube, throwing their ideas out there. Somebody said, "What about thinning the goalposts?"
You know what's funny? I'm going to make this comment again, but I used to hear this all the time. Remember when Fox Tracks had the puck?
Yeah.
It was blue, and then it would go red when you shoot it fast.
Yeah.
And so, I have heard more casual fans tell me they loved Fox Tracks.
Really?
They loved it. They said it helped them understand the game and follow the puck. The biggest qualm people get, new viewers, is I can't see the puck on TV. I don't know how to follow the game. That's the most common thing I get from people all the time.
As games continue to go to more streaming services, I think about, have you ever watched one of the NFL games on Amazon where they have the stat cast? You have the alternate cast and it
Yes.
has a lot of the on-screen graphics.
Yeah.
If you eventually can elevate it to a place where the Fox track becomes an optional thing, then totally fine.
I think it's
you
great.
can toggle that on and off.
I love that. Love that. I don't know how you do that. But
I
it's
actually
sophisticated technology.
There are times where I'm watching two out-of-town teams. I always like seeing the player names, especially if I just get into a game. If I haven't been watching it the entire time, get the player names popping up, almost like the video game
15
style, right?
seconds, Russ.
There are things that they can do.
We'll continue this discussion. Big
Postgame.
first 5 minutes for the Flyers here. Seriously, I mean that. They need to make sure they get the pucks in deep into the zone. Keep locking down the middle of the ice, and we'll get out of here with 2 points.
We'll talk to all of you post-game here on the Press Row Show. Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame intermission postgame show. The side of Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, west of the 51st state, Greenland, south of the 52nd state, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, a big old 4-2 win for your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers. Bad news, though, Bundy, to start postgame. Josh Harris, 0-2. Josh Harris teams 0-2 in the first 2 days of this week. It is a rough time for Josh Harris. First, the Commanders fall by 32 points at the Link, and tonight, a mere 2 goals. So at least for Josh Harris, it's 16
but
times less painful.
But he still owns the Sixers, so he's still got Philly in his
Well, they're
heart.
at least having a great year. All right, we're going to get into it here. I will remind people that we are going to be back on Tuesday morning with a new Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. We'll be me and you and Ant Sanfoni, Ant Zamboni, as I like to call him. We're going to be back with a regular show, so postgame might be a little bit shorter tonight, but we'll be back with plenty of recap and analysis and everything on Tuesday. But Bundy, a 4-2 win, a game in which the Flyers went up 2-0 early. Let's start there. First period, it was a strong first period. Scott Laughton made his presence felt in his return to the lineup in the second goal, but let's walk the people back through what happened.
Flyers got a really, really good start in this hockey game. Bobby Brink on the power play after the Flyers killed off that 4-minute penalty kill. It was a high sticking call to Rasmus Ristolainen. The Flyers got their first power play. It lasted about 5 seconds before Bobby Brink canned one home. It ran off Pesce into the net, 1-0 Flyers. 28 seconds after that, Flyers get a rush chance up the middle. Scotty Laughton on a 2-on-2 simply shoots the puck to the net. Guy drives through. I believe that was Joel Farabee. He shoves one past Jake Allen. 2-0 Flyers. And that was the end of the first. You move it into the second period. And the Flyers, I thought, weathered a little bit of a storm early in the second period before they were able to pour on a third goal. Who got that goal, Andrew?
Did he fall asleep at the wheel?
No. Just seeing if he's on the ball.
The intern. ¿Qué pasó, señor? El tercer gol.
Oh, it was Hathaway.
Garnet Hathaway, yeah. Good call. And that was a very, very nice goal, too, by Hathaway. That made it 3-0 on that on the quick shot. And then the Devils ended up getting one back after that. Made it 3-1 heading into the third period, where the Devils ended up playing a pretty good. They were desperate, down 3-1. Finally, on a 6-on-5 at the end, Timo Meier with a shot, a beautiful shot, short side high. Nothing
it just kind of felt like they were inevitably going to.
They were going to win this game, and then finally Laughton with the empty netter again at the end to seal it. 4-2 Flyers, big win, a Metro Division win. And for some reason, they seem to have the Devils' number. The way that these two teams stack up and the way they play, the way this Devils style is, seems to fit right into where the Flyers want to play hockey. And they've had 2 good 4 points against the Devils. The Devils giving up nothing to the Devils in return. So 2 good wins for the Flyers against the Devils, especially here tonight at home ice at the Wells Fargo Center.
We have a lot of people weighing in about Drysdale's game tonight. What did you see out there? Did you see anything?
I thought he played a very good game tonight, actually. See you guys. I thought Drysdale made a lot of good plays, subtle defensive plays. He moved the puck well. He jumped up in the rush a couple times. Yeah, he had a very, very strong game tonight. No doubt about that.
There was something that I was trying to look into here. I just need to see if it was the case or not. I'll come back around to it. Player with the fewest minutes on ice tonight for your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers, at least among forwards. Matvei Mishkov played a total. That can't be right. Could that be right?
Not much, huh?
Let me hit the refresh, because I might be missing something.
I'll bet it wasn't much. I didn't see him on the third period much.
9 minutes and 45 seconds of game time for Matvei Mishkov tonight. People were asking our thoughts during the intermission about him being on the second power play unit, being on the third line. Do you think he's cruising for a scratch?
I think they got to be careful with that. I don't know. I mean, they have injured guys in now, right? So they have some guys up from the minors. So I'm not really sure. I don't think. Yeah. So is that confirmed? He didn't play in the third. I didn't notice him in the third period at all.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of jump in his game tonight. There wasn't a lot of energy in terms of what you want to see from a young guy. Whether he's scoring or he's getting assists or he's on the score sheet at all, I think he's got to figure out a little bit of what to do, how to play the game when the things are not going well offensively. You know, and that means buying into what Torts is doing. It doesn't mean you're going to turn him into a checker. But I know that, I think the way Torts coaches, I think all the fans know it as well. He's going to want some defensive prowess. in that situation as well.
A couple of things to note in this game. Sean Couturier was out due to illness. Zamula remained out. Lawton was back in the lineup. Ersson was in net. That was one of the things that we were talking about pregame as something to kind of keep an eye on. The last time Ersson was in net for this team, got blown up by the Rangers. Felt like first period didn't face a lot.
No.
Over the course of the remaining 2 periods, it did feel like he had moments where he was tested. Ultimately gives up 2 goals in the game. Not a bad performance out of Sam Ersson. Has to be a little bit of
well. One of the stars
of a confidence boost to get back in there, kind of regain his form, back in home cooking.
Playing a good team.
Where do you think Torts goes on Thursday?
He's got to split the goalies again. He can't play Ersson 3 games in 4 nights. So, I think he's going to get the Devils game again, and I think they're going to go back to Fedotov for the Islanders. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Ersson has played great against the Devils, and you don't want to switch that up. He's gotten them 4 points in the last 2 games against New Jersey over the span of the last 10 days. So I don't switch that up at all. I leave him. I'm going with Ersson against the Devils next.
Makes sense. Going back really quick to the Mishkov stuff. Russell, great name. Russell Grabowski says Mish will benefit from the break when they have the 4 Nations.
Yeah, he may. He may very well.
Andrew Jacobson saying Mishkov has looked tired the last few games, skating slow.
But you got to remember, though, he's not a fleet of feet. Like
No.
he's not. You're not going to get wowed out of your seat like Connor McDavid. I say Connor McGregor. Connor McDavid, but
Connor McGregor, who the is that guy?
We saw him the other night. I was at that BKFC event. Holy Jesus, it was a throwback to the 80s and 90s fighting style.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway,
McGregor. How does McGregor stack up to you? We didn't have a tail of the tape ready, but
he's a small guy.
Yeah.
But he would kick my ass.
You think so?
Yeah, he'd choke me out or do something like that. I wouldn't be able to defend that. I don't have any MMA skill. If you want to punch, go ahead. You can take your best shot. Those guys were so tough.
I believe in you.
They were monster men.
There were some scary looking dudes.
There was one guy who was like a mountain man. His name
is that
was
the guy that won the
Big
guy that
Ben
won the title?
Rothwell? Yeah,
he had the big beard. And
big
everything?
beard. Yeah, he was just like he looked like bad news.
And he didn't look like any worse for the wear after. He looked he looked like he hadn't even gone through a fight. I was shocked.
I couldn't.
There was
believe
that one dude who was like full crimson mask.
There was like 13 fights, and I was there. I was there till 12:20 in the morning. We brought the kids. They loved it. It kind of reminded me of like the old NHL. It was like that. It was pretty fun. Anyway, Connor McDavid, Mishkov's not gonna wow you like McDavid with his speed, but he's a small space skill operator, and when he doesn't have that, that's why the power play is something to feed him with, and if they're not getting power plays, he's on the second unit, he's not going to see a lot of ice time.
I want to go over here really quick to Rob Greeley. Not hockey related. Could I get a shout out to my wife, Carol, celebrating her birthday tomorrow, January 28th? Please. Yeah, Rob, send us a super chat and I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
Happy birthday, Carol. Hopefully Carol's a viewer of the show, enjoys the show. If not, Carol needs to find her nearest device and subscribe to Snow the Goalie on YouTube. And happy birthday, Carol. You know what? January 28th seems like a great day for a birthday.
This one's pretty funny. You see this?
What is...
I think it's making fun of the mayor who can't spell.
Yeah, but why is it?
That was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen.
E L G
S
S
E S
S
Escalflizzies.
Alexis.
It's not even that hard of a word.
Exactly, isn't
Five
Like
letters.
the word flows. You could tell a 3-year-old one time how to spell EAGLES Eagles, and the 3-year-old would do it.
She screwed up the chant on WIP too. They gave her a second chance. She got the EAGLES, but what happens after you spell it?
You say Eagles.
You say Eagles because you have to remind people like it's almost like a spelling bee. Like I know how to spell Eagles. She goes EAGLES. Go Eagles. There's no go.
Oh no.
And you would think that after like she got, raked over the coals for a few days, that she'd at least get that right. But no.
I heard she just bet a cheesesteak with the mayor of Kansas City.
Really?
I don't know. Probably a bowl of chili for a cheesesteak.
No, she probably
What's
wagered,
Kansas City's food?
No, she probably wagered Primanti Brothers. She got confused and gave a Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Kansas City barbecue. KC barbecue.
That's fine.
Yeah. Or a cheesesteak.
Do you say chili? That's Cincy.
That's
It's
Cincinnati.
Cincy.
Yeah,
Cincinnati's chili.
the Skyline chili.
chili. Yeah.
Seems gross.
You ever put chili on a hot dog?
Yes.
On a tubular meat?
Yes, I absolutely have. It's delicious.
Chili
There's a
and
place in
cheese?
Detroit. There's a place in Detroit called Coney Island Hot Dogs.
Oh, yeah, there's one. Well,
They're legendary. I used to go there. I would eat there if we go to play Detroit. Right when I was broadcasting, I would eat dinner, lunch, dinner, lunch. If we had a day off in Detroit, I would go nowhere but Coney Island every time.
Really?
Eating chili dogs. Three chili dogs in order, yeah, and fries with chili.
Is that the best out-of-town food that you had
Oh, it
on
was
the road?
just so bad for you, but it was delicious. Anybody, and you can actually order the kits too, the Coney Island kits to send them to your house. Yeah, there they are.
like that?
There it is, American Coney Island. Yeah, that's it. That's the spot in Detroit. It's in a little hellhole, and it's just a great spot.
I'll tell you what, you don't
Look
have
at
to
that! Look at that beautiful! Look at that thing right there.
You don't have to go up to Detroit. You can go up to Pottsville, Pennsylvania. There's a Coney Island up there.
Where's that?
Pottsville.
Is there really? Is it the same as that one?
No, but it's the same idea.
Same idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there is, if it's
But
in
Coney-
Pottstown, I'm going there then this
Well,
summer.
there's Pottsville. Two different ones.
Pottstown.
No, Pottsville.
Oh, Pottsville. Okay.
Pottstown is like,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Pottsville, Home Yingling Brewery.
I should do like
My
some, I should
hometown,
do
you
some
know?
of my like reviews from the road of like where the
go-
best food is. But
you
this
go-
was a spot. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
You scoop the anthracite coal. You know?
And I'd stuff my belly too for like $15.
Yeah.
3 hot dogs, chili fries, and a soda.
Oh, Brian Knowlton gets it. Says Tony's Lunch. They have a burger at Tony's Lunch. It's called the Fluff. It's called the Fluff Burger.
Really?
This is gonna sound so gross, but it's so good. It's a cheeseburger. It's a burger, right? And they have this like homemade. I don't know what the hot sauce.
See you guys.
is.
Take
It's
care.
like
Enjoy the
it's
night.
Like chopped
See you, Mike.
peppers. It's an insanely
Fridge.
hot pepper sauce, and they put marshmallow fluff with the hot spicy pepper. It's incredible. It makes no sense. It should be the most disgusting thing, and yet it's not. Anyway,
My favorite road city to play in was, man, there was a few good ones. You know what? A road city is what you make of it.
ooh,
Right? Like, you can go to a bad city, but you can still find a party somewhere. I didn't get cheated, Russ.
I believe in you.
I know.
You're the kind
All
of guy that makes the most out of any situation.
We got a show tomorrow morning,
We do.
10:45, somewhere in there.
Somewhere around there.
Neck
We'll
of
have it.
woods.
You'll see it on YouTube. It'll kind of give you a heads up. We might even tweet about it.
Are you going to go live or pre-recorded?
I think we're going to go live. We'll do it live.
All right.
Bleep it. We'll do it live.
You working tomorrow,
I was
Andrew?
going to say.
I am, yeah.
I was going to say
All right.
French seal. French seal it.
All right.
We'll do it live. Anyway, we'll be back on Tuesday morning with the news to know. The Goalie Flyers with a big win tonight against the New Jersey Devils, 4-2. A statement game, some may say. Coming back off of two losses
yeah.
on the road in New York. You get things back on track.
Get the first of the back-to-back with the home and home with the Devils. And that'd be a real good telling sign, too. So, great win.
All right,
Excellent
so
win tonight.
Until Tuesday morning, that's Bundy. Ant is on assignment. Intern Andrew on the ones and twos. And I've been Russ. Make sure you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And if you're listening in the podcast feed after the fact, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Until then, until next time, this has been the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, postgame show. Have a great night, everybody.